Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Joe Salvatore, and I'm the director of the Verbatim Performance Lab here at NYU. I'm also a faculty member in the Educational Theater program in the Department of Music and Performing Arts Professions in the Steinhardt School. Thank you for being here in the room with us, and for those of you that are on Zoom virtually, thank you for being here as well. I don't know why I'm looking up, but okay, yes. Thank you for being here as well. We're very happy that you're here to help us commemorate Constitution Day. And Constitution Day, or Citizenship Day, is an American federal observance that recognizes the adoption of the United States Constitution and those who have become U.S. citizens. It is normally observed on September 17th, the day in 1787 that delegates to the Constitutional Convention signed the document in Philadelphia. The event is sponsored and organized each year by the John Bradamus Center, and it's inspired by its founder, the former congressman and NYU president emeritus. The Bradamus Center is a home for informed and civil debate on politics, public policy, and other major issues facing the nation and global community. The performance this evening was created by the Verbatim Performance Lab, and after you've experienced it, we will have 3 respondents who will engage in some conversation about the performance. First, you will engage in conversation, and then the respondents will engage in conversation with all of us. And our respondents this evening we're very happy to be joined by Jack Knott, the Dean of the Steinhardt School of Culture, Education, and Human Development, Danielle Elliman, Associate Director of Sexual and Relationship Respect Services at our Student Health Center, and Dr. Karen Jackson-Weaver, Senior Associate Vice President for Global Faculty Engagement and Innovative Advancement. So thank you all for being here. I also wanted to extend a thanks and appreciation to our additional partners on this event, NYU TV, NYU Votes, and the Birnbaum Women's Leadership Network at NYU Law School, and also to the folks here at Kimmel for their support throughout the day putting this event together. We have one change to this evening's performance. Our colleague Derek Herman became ill this afternoon and is unable to perform, and so I'll be performing in his place. So I will be carrying a script for the section that I do. Lastly, we want to take a moment to acknowledge that the content of this evening's performance does include, is based on an incident that involves sexual harassment in the workplace, but we do not, the artifacts that we work with do not describe that sexual harassment in detail. We still want to encourage folks to take care of themselves as you experience this evening, and we want you to do that in any way that you feel comfortable doing, okay? So thank you again for being here, and with that, this is called We're Not There Yet.
Hello all and welcome. Thank you for being here. In June of 2022, Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 celebrated its 50th anniversary. Title IX states, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from the participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance."
Under Title IX, discrimination on the basis of sex can include sexual harassment or sexual violence, such as rape, sexual assault, sexual battery, and sexual coercion. The constitutionality of Title IX is often equated with the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Under the Law clause.
31 years before that, in October of 1991, Professor Anita Hill and Judge Clarence Thomas gave sworn testimony and faced questions from members of the Senate Judiciary Committee in light of accusations of sexual harassment alleged by Hill against Thomas, who was in the process of confirmation hearings to the Supreme Court of the United States.
What would happen if we put these two events in dialogue with each other? What would happen if we did it on a college campus where issues of sexual harassment and sexual violence have been flashpoints? What can we learn by having conversations on how we might build more equitable processes in situations that arise from accusations of sexual harassment? Often in these instances, we hear the phrase, "I believe you," but what does it mean to believe, to be believed, and is belief enough?
Tonight, you'll hear 6 verbatim excerpts from Meteor Artifacts. 4 of these will be from the second confirmation hearings of Judge Clarence Thomas, and 2 will be from contemporary sources that share social commentary on these issues of where we've been and where we're headed.
So each of us has carefully studied the words and gestures of the original speaker and has worked to embody their vocal quality, style, and gesture as close as humanly possible. Words will be spoken verbatim, which includes all the original speaker's disfluencies, filler words, and turns of phrase.
Much scholarship has been written about the fact that Hill and Thomas, both Black, were questioned by an all-white male Senate Judiciary Committee. As an additional investigation of race, gender, and bias, each artifact will be gender swapped, so an all-male committee becomes an all-female committee. Additionally, in certain instances, the race of the speaker has been swapped as well.
Lastly, the names of some speakers have been changed to create distance from the original source and to provide an objective lens for viewing. So Professor Hill and Judge Thomas become Professor Ross and Judge Bennett.
After these artifacts, we'll be joined by our respondents for discussion about what we experienced together, and that's what those envelopes are for that you received as you came into the room this evening. We'll ask you, you can set those aside for now, but we will ask you to use them later on this evening. Is everyone ready? Let's begin.
It's going to become a mechanism. Timestamp, March 5th, 2019. Candace Owens and Roseanne Barr, 31 minutes and 2 seconds into the podcast.
I was saying about the Me Too movement. They were talking about that, and I shouldn't go there.
Oh, you should go there. Do you know how much trouble I got in for it? You can't be in more trouble for me than talking about Me Too. Don't worry.
First of all, let me tell you, Mike Tyson, who's hilarious and a friend, he calls it the U2 movement.
What? The U2 movement, meaning?
U2.
Like?
They're gonna get you too.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And I noticed, because I was the one that said it first. Like, I went against the Me Too movement early, like right when it came out of the gate. So I got roundly condemned by both sides. And I was like, guys, if you don't see the writing on the wall with this, it's going to become a mechanism for people to...
Witch hunt.
Yeah, witch hunt. It's going to be a mechanism for the Christine Blasey Ford types to ascertain power. I mean, then obviously it came along Christine Blasey Ford, and everybody was like, Jamie was right.
And nothing happened to her either.
No, she should be in prison.
She should be in prison.
How did she? She's not required to file a police report or anything.
No.
She collected millions of dollars.
White women privilege.
That really is.
I know.
And it reminded me, if you want to give white women the right to say something happened to them, and you have to believe them with no evidence, no proof, and they get $1 million, well, then let's talk about the civil rights era, because that's when black people were hung for trees because of that.
That's right.
Right. That's what Carolyn Bryant said about Emmett Till.
That's right.
He said something to me in a grocery with no evidence, no proof, and you know what happened to Emmett Till?
Right.
And it's jarring to me that people
I
don't
wrote
see that.
I was the first person on Twitter to make that assessment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought I was. Bob, we're gonna need you to go back in our tweets. I want street cred.
We're gonna have a contest.
Right, yeah.
But that was the first thing that went in my head.
I'm like, hello, do you know your own history?
No, they don't.
You really want to give them unfettered permission to say something happened and you're gonna believe them?
Yeah, we're beyond that point. Timestamp, October 11th, 1999. 1991. Day 1 of the second confirmation hearings of Judge Clarence Thomas. Chairman Biden and Professor Hill, 1 hour and 5 minutes into the hearing.
Now, this is not something that you initiated, is that correct?
No, it is not.
And you were contacted by a staff. His answer was no, it was not something he initiated. And you were contacted by a staff person from the United States Senate, is that correct?
Yes.
And you indicated to me you thought that staff person, and it's perfectly understandable you would, in my view, thought that staff person was a staff person from the Judiciary Committee. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you were subsequently contacted by 2 other staff persons?
Yes. Well, let me clarify that.
Please,
I thought that that staff person was acting on behalf of a member of the committee.
I see.
Yeah, with regard to their duties on the committee.
I see. Which is what I understand to be the case.
Yes.
And legitimately so. But as we talked, I had indicated to you that the committee, to be more precise, me, and in terms of my responsibilities as the chair to make known that the allegations to the committee as a whole did not occur until after the committee had begun its meeting. No reason. That's not your responsibility. That's mine. But what I want to get at is this. Not who spoke first and second and third and all that. I want to get at this issue because it seems to me it does go to question. It does go to explain your assertions here this morning as to how you got here. What ultimately was the final thing that made you go public knowing that all this would occur?
Well, I was presented with the information by a newspaper.
The information
a reporter.
you submitted to me and I distributed to the committee?
Yes.
You were submitted, you were presented with that information.
Over the telephone. It was read to me verbatim by members of the press.
Now, the thing that was read to you verbatim
was
the statement that you had submitted to me and asked me to distribute to the committee.
Yes.
Is that correct? So, in your view, you're here as a result of some unexpected events.
Definitely.
And events that proved not to be within your control.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you therefore, or do you not, consider yourself to be a part of some sort of organized effort to determine whether or not Jeanette Bennett should or should not sit on the bench?
No, I had no intention of being here today. None at all. I did not think that this would ever, I had not even imagined that this would occur.
Now, as I listened to you today and answering very direct questions from Senator Specter, very fair but direct questions, you did not, as you stated here, and correct me if I'm wrong, you appear not to have from the outset viewed what was happening to you in terms of having a need to retaliate or to sue or to do anything other than try to stop what was happening, what you alleged to be happening from happening. Is that correct?
That is correct. That was my motive at the time, just to stop the activity.
Is this what you anticipated?
This No, not at all. Not in my way. I would have never even dreamed this up. I just can't imagine.
So is it reasonable to say that it was your hope and expectation that it would not come to this?
It was exactly what I was trying to really, I made great effort to make sure that it did not come to this, and I was meticulous. I was making every effort to make sure that this public thing did not happen. I didn't talk to the press. I was called by the press on July 1st. I did not talk to the press. This is exactly what I did not want.
And is it fair to say that attitude prevailed up until the moment the press person called you and read you your statement?
Well, the attitude of not wanting this to happen, it prevails even today.
Well, we're beyond that point.
Yeah, we're
as you
beyond
know.
that point, but it certainly prescribed it up until that point.
The reason I bothered to ask you that is that it seems to me that it's important for the committee to know why someone would move from one point to the next and still hope you didn't have to get to the end point. With the end point being in total public at this moment, like you are at this moment. Am I in any way misstating your desires as you moved along in this process or were moved along in this process?
The desire was never to get to this point. The desire, and I thought that I could do things, and if I was or were cautious enough that I could control it so that I would not get to this point. But I was mistaken.
I thank you very much. I yield to my friend from Alabama, Senator Heflin.
I am interested in your perception. Timestamp, October 11th, 1991, day 1 of the second confirmation hearings of Judge Clarence Thomas. Senator DeConcini and Professor Hill, 3 hours and 37 minutes into the hearing.
What do you see as the most significant thing coming out of this unfortunate experience that you have had to go through now, and I mean the public part of it?
Other than creating awareness, I see that the information is going to behold. It is going to take change. I think, in addition, that however it was leaked, I believe.
That would be raising the awareness of sexual harassment to the
raising the
public.
awareness, but also giving people courage.
And giving people courage to step forward and do what you didn't do 10 years ago or 6 years ago or 2 years ago, but you're doing today.
Yes.
Now, is your motive also to attempt to clear your name from any degrading publicity that has occurred? Do you feel put upon? Do you feel exposed? Do you feel injured and damaged through this, even though you obviously have committed yourself to proceed with it?
You mean my motive in coming here today, or
Yes.
something that I think will be a good thing from coming here today?
No, I mean, is your motive also to help clarify your own position on sexual harassment because of the publicity that has brought this up to the forefront? Is that one of your motives? Is that one of the reasons you came forward? In other words, was your reputation one of the reasons you came forward? You felt that your reputation was being degraded or impugned by the fact that this was printed all over the press and that people were making counter charges and questioning your motives and what have you. Is that one of the reasons you came forward?
Well, definitely. Yes, coming
today.
here today, I did want to accomplish that. There have been a number of very ugly and nasty things that have been said, and I did want to come forward and tell my side.
Do you think, now having come forward and told your side, that your reputation from your standpoint could ever be fully restored?
Not in the minds of many. Never. It will not be.
And in your opinion, Professor Ross, is there any single group or entity that you think caused more damage to you? I'm interested in your perception. It seems to me that those who leaked this information certainly caused damage, and that the press, in my opinion, is on trial because they didn't have to print this, but they elected that they could do it. And in this country, they can print anything they want, true or false, as we all know. And that the Senate made a judgment here first at the committee and then in the full Senate to put it off. And I think that is certainly on trial. Obviously, Judge Bennett is on trial, though this is not a trial. You are on trial in the sense of the credibility here. Is there any one of these that stick out in your mind? Is the press more culpable for causing you to have to come forward? Is the committee more culpable? Or is it all just a big bunch of stuff that we got to deal with and everybody's culpable?
I think it's just the reality, Senator, of this situation, the nature of this complaint, and I cannot point my finger at any one entity and say that you are responsible for this.
But you said earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you did not want today to be what it is, that you had hoped that you could get the information to this committee, and ultimately you agreed that your name could be used among the committee members, that you had hoped that that would be sufficient for the members to make a judgment and that you would not have to do what you're doing today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Now, that didn't happen, or we wouldn't be here today. And would you repeat why you think we're here? Why did you have to come forward and make this public presentation when you had hoped to do so, and to bring the information without having to do what you're doing today?
Well, I think that there are a number of factors. I believe, however, the material was leaked, that was one factor. I believe that the press is a factor. And in addition, excuse me, that the information is just going before the public that wants to know and wants to know about this. And so again, I think there are a variety of situations and factors that cause this to occur today.
Let me ask you this then, if I can, Professor Ross. If this information had not been leaked, would you have suggested that you come forward and do this and in a public forum?
No.
If the press had not then published it or read it to you and left you with a distinct impression they were going to publish it, would you have felt obligated to come forward and in a public sense other than what you'd already done?
I do not believe that I would have come forward.
You would not have come forward.
I do not believe now that I would have.
So is it safe to say that because the information was first leaked and then made public, that you felt that you no longer could proceed with what you felt was proper by letting this information available to us, but not in a public forum? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
A single day of joy. Timestamp, October 12th, 1991. Day 2 of the second confirmation hearings of Judge Clarence Thomas, Senator DeConcini, and Judge Thomas. 6 hours and 1 minute into the hearing.
I don't think Professor Ross will ever fully recover from what he's gone through, regardless of what happens to you. And I don't know whether you will. So my question is, do you think you can recover from having your name and reputation ripped from you through this process? Can you recover as an individual and serve on the Supreme Court?
Senator, there's also a positive side of this.
Tell me what it is. Except raising the awareness of sex harassment, and I don't say that to minimal, but I think that awareness is out there and has been for a long time, if I may say myself, and I didn't need this experience to raise it for me. But please, don't let me interrupt what you say, the positive side. Believe me, I'm looking for one. I'm praying for one.
During the last 105 days and the last 2.5 weeks especially, I have never had such outpouring of love and affection and friendship and people who know me, not people making these scurrilous assertions, but people who know me, supporting me and caring for me. My husband, my son, whose attitude is just to be terribly angry. I think it's shown me just how vulnerable I am as a human being, and any American, that these kinds of charges can be given validity in a process such as this, and the destruction it can do. I think it's given me that sense. I think it's shown the people of this country what's happening. I think I didn't want them to see what happened to me. I didn't want my personal life or allegations about my sexual habits or anything else broadcast in every living room in the United States. But they see this process for what it is. And I think that's good. And hopefully it never happens to another American. Yes, I can heal. As I said in my opening remarks, I will simply walk down the hill. If I'm not confirmed, so be it. And hopefully live a long life. Enjoy my neighbors and my friends, my son, cut my grass, go to McDonald's, and drive my car. And just be a good citizen, and a good judge, and a good mother, and a good wife. Yeah, I'll survive. My question was, will this country survive? And hopefully it will.
And if you're confirmed?
I will survive, a different person. I would have hoped, Senator, when I was nominated, that it would have been an occasion for joy. There has not been a single day of joy in this process. There has not been 1 minute of joy in having been nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States of America.
Judge Bennett, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, after our 10 days or whatever it was, 90 witnesses and your 5 days, I thought you were not just being gracious, but being sincere, where you thanked the chair and this committee. And as you said today, you would have liked to have received more votes here, but you didn't. And that was the process. And I remember your words, as yet you said, I think I have been treated fairly. And I have no quarrel or no, ill feeling. Is that, am I restating that correctly, how you felt after your formal hearing?
That is right, Senator.
And I can understand that you don't feel that way today. And my question continues to go to the sense of your being confirmed. What does it do to somebody? Does it affect their ability to approach cases, as you indicated, and satisfactorily so to this senator, approach cases and serve as a Supreme Court judge? Can you be reborn from the harm that you have had to endure these 2 weeks? And how do you cope with it, if you care to say? And if you don't, I will understand.
Senator, one thing that I have learned over my life, and that is that I'll be back. The other thing that I learned are things that we discussed in the real confirmation hearing, such as our rights being protected. What are our rights as citizens of this country? What are our constitutional rights? What is our relationship to our government? And as I sit here on matters such as privacy, on matters such as protections, procedures against individuals in a criminal context or civil context, this has heightened my awareness to the importance of those protections, the importance of something we discussed in theory: privacy, due process, equal protections, fairness.
So, Judge, safe to say that, and what a way to have to come to it, and this senator was convinced you didn't have to come to it, that you met the threshold for my vote. But what you're now saying today is that through this god-awful experience, you will be more sensitive to the rights of accused. And that's because your rights were violated. Is that correct?
I have been an accused.
And your rights, in your
were
judgment,
violated, as far as I think so, strongly so.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Bennett. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I don't think this body can serve. Timestamp October 11th, 1991, day 2 of the second confirmation hearings of Judge Clarence Thomas. Senator Simon and Judge Thomas, 6 hours and 14 minutes into the hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Judge Bennett, most of us have made the decision on the basis that you have asked for. There are, I think it is safe to say, a few members of the Senate who have not made the decision yet, and where what is happening here may be decisive. I read in one of the morning newspapers where Senator Brown was quoted as saying, "We have 2 very credible witnesses." I think that those who, whether they are reporters in this room or viewing it on television, have come away with a good impression of both of you. But obviously, one person is telling the truth and one is not. And it is difficult to determine that. And you look at factors that weigh on either side that in a small way may be measurable. Let me just outline for you some of these factors, and if you suggest that I'm leaving out anything. On your side, the fact that he followed from one job to another, I understand his statement that the harassing ceased and he needed the job, but he did follow. Second, the phone calls, 11 phone calls in 7 years. Some of them can be explained, maybe all of them can be. I don't know. And some additional contact with you. Limited, but some additional contact. And while psychiatrists say those who have sexual abuse, this is not an uncommon occurrence, nevertheless, it seems to me those weigh on your side. On the other side is, first of all, the much discussed question of motivation. He is clearly a reluctant witness. And, as I sense it, motivation may be public service. Very difficult, can stretch, but it's hard to find other motivation. Second, the detailed facts that he comes up with could be created, but it is difficult to imagine that. I don't happen to be a fan of lie detectors, but he volunteered to the FBI that he would take a lie detector test. I don't find generally that people who are not telling the truth volunteer to take lie detector tests. And finally, he experienced stomach pains only one time in his life. Due to job stress, he says, and his physician at least apparently partially confirms, and that was during this period that he was working for you. Now, none of these factors alone is enough, and maybe in combination they are not enough, but what would you say to my colleagues in the Senate who are trying to weigh this thing and say, what are some more objective criteria that can be used as you weigh this?
Senator, I don't think there are objective criteria in weighing evidence. That's why you have rules of evidence and procedures in courts of law. This is not a court of law. That's why you have judges and finders of fact. That's why you have a careful review process. That's why you have statutes of limitations. That's why you have cross-examination by experienced trial counsels. That's why you have precedents. That's why you have a judicial system.
Let me ask you another question about the process. If you were on this committee and we came up with another similar situation, would we be better off having such a hearing in executive session without cameras, without reporters, without television sets in executive session?
Senator, I think you should, in this instance, trust the FBI or experienced investigators. If you don't like their reports, I think you should stop relying on them. This body cannot serve as a judicial system.
But we have to make judgments.
I think this body is a political body. It cannot serve as a judicial system.
I guess, again, the FBI does not draw conclusions from, as you know, you've seen FBI reports, and we have to make judgments. And I don't think that, I don't know how we are going to improve the process.
Well, I think that this is clearly wrong.
I think we are in agreement that the process has to be improved.
No, Senator, in the strongest terms, this process can only go one direction, and that is improvement. This is clearly wrong.
I have no further questions, Madam Chair.
We're Not There Yet. Timestamp, October 11th, 2021. A podcast, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and Professor Anita Hill. 44 minutes and 36 seconds into the recorded conversation.
I would want them to know that I'm incredibly sorry and that I feel terrible for them and very sorry for whatever has happened to them. And if I could speak with them directly to ask them, how are they doing? And are they doing okay? Ask if there's anything I can do to support them. And I think that language is a little bit different than the language that we use with survivors. And I've learned this just since 2018, that we use this "I believe you" language. And when I met with people to tell them what had happened, and they told me, "I believe you," it was admittedly a little bit awkward. Sort of like I had told them, "My name is Charlie," and they said, I believe you. So I think it comes from a wonderful place of support. It might be the only thing that we say that about, that we say to a person, "I believe you." And is that the most helpful thing to say? I'm not sure. Are there also other things that are also helpful to say? But it occurs to me that when I've told people about other bad things that have happened to me in my life, the response wasn't, "I believe you."
Yeah, I like this idea of really interrogating this approach of "I believe you." What does that say? Maybe I know other people don't believe you. I mean, what does it say to?
No, I think that's it.
I do. You'll want to know if they're okay, but and then my mind quickly goes to, what are your resources? Do you understand the process? Do you know who you need to talk to? Do you know how you need to frame your story to be heard? And do care about where they are, but I also want to be able to support what is their ultimate goal, and that is to be heard. And so my approach is very different. And, I've been saying this for the last 30 years now. I'm still not at the point where I can tell every person who has been violated that they should step forward into a system. I can't tell them that. I can help prepare them if they decide to do that. I can help them make the decision about whether to do that. But I can't just tell people to come forward knowing what I know about the potential consequences. So I really do reject this idea that things will change if more people will come forward, if more men would just step up. My belief is that more things will change if we provide systems and processes so that people can come forward, they can be heard. But we're not there yet.
Hi, everyone. Let's all take a breath. Let's breathe that out. I know that's not an easy thing to sit in for 45 minutes. Hi, my name's Avril Carr, and I am one of the co-creators of We're Not There Yet, which was presented as my capstone project for my recent graduation from the undergraduate program in educational theater at the Steinhardt School. Thank you. Thank you. This project began 18 months ago, originally conceived as a 30-year retrospective of the sexual violence movement since the confirmation hearings of Justice Clarence Thomas, in conjunction with the 5th anniversary of the moment #MeToo went viral. As we investigated contemporary examples of sexual violence, we decided that a reinvestigation of the Thomas confirmation hearings provided a foundation to explore issues of gender, power, and the public processes where they play out. The performance you just witnessed was a culmination of research, focus groups, and a workshop in the spring semester. I am honored that you were able to join us today. I want to look you all and say thank you. But whether virtually or in person, as conversations around this topic continue to be necessary and continue to be relevant. In order to continue this process, I'm going to ask that Keith R. Huff, co-creator of this piece, please join me back on stage to help facilitate the next section.
Awesome. Thank you, Avril. Appreciate that. Hello, everyone. As Avril just said, my name is Keith. I am one of the co-creators of the project. And now we're going to turn it over for some discussion between you all. So when you walked in, you were handed an envelope. Can everyone get that and hold it up so I make sure that everyone has one? Oh, what a great audience. Perfect. Thank you so much. So up on the top corner of the envelope, there's a color dot, a red dot, a yellow dot, or a blue dot. Right? So in a moment, but not yet, we're going to ask you to open that envelope, and inside there's going to be a series of questions, right? And there are different questions per color dot. And Avril, what are they going to do with those questions?
Okay, so your goal is to create a trio. So you should have one red, one blue, and one yellow. And you're going to open your envelope, not yet, but you're going to open your envelope, and you're going to read those questions for yourself. And you will decide one question that you'd like to prompt with your group. And then each of you will share your question with your group. You'll talk about it. We're going to give you a few minutes to discuss these questions with your group. And Keith is going to give you just a couple best practices for doing this.
Some best practices, absolutely. So we are going to be talking about issues that are uncomfortable and hard to talk about, right? So let's just provide some ground rules for you all to interact with each other. And you're also going to be doing it maybe with strangers, which adds a whole nother layer of discomfort. You're welcome. So as we move forward, I want us to do three things. So first and foremost, I want you to use I statements when you talk about your experience, right? I saw, I witnessed, I felt, right? Every experience that you have is valid because you are a human being and you experienced it, so we're gonna validate that. The second thing is I'm going to ask you to use what we call in the biz a yes and attitude, right? Meaning that if Avril starts to say something, I'm going to yes and what she's talking about and continue to add on to it. And the third thing is, since we're going to be saying new things out loud, maybe things that you haven't thought of before, I'm going to encourage you all to speak in draft, right? Meaning that as I'm talking, this may be the first time I'm actually articulating the things that I'm saying out loud. So give each other some grace and some room to rewrite and revise as you talk it out. Cool? So just to reiterate, you're going to find a trio with each of the different colors. You're going to open your envelope. You're going to read the questions. You're going to choose one. You're going to discuss, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah? All right. We're going to give you a couple minutes. Go ahead and find your trios, and we'll get back to you.
With 3 mics.